Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for taking time out of your day to check the video out. We have more PlayStation news, rumors, and leaks to go over and cover here today. So do me a favor before we dive into today's topics. If you end up enjoying the video or finding it informative, be sure to leave it a like. And if you are new here to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button as well. We're starting here with a new rumor regarding the PlayStation 6, and this is a very interesting rumor. The timing of it, I think, makes a lot of sense because we're just coming off of the PS5 Pro reveal, and the big thing surrounding the PS5 Pro reveal is the $700 price point. This has naturally led people to kind of wonder whether or not this is a price point we can expect at the launch of the PlayStation 6. This is being reported by WCCF Tech. They say two different PlayStation 6 SoCs are said to be in the works, suggesting that the next generation Sony system will be released in two different SKUs. Speaking on the NeoGAF forums, well-known AMD leaker Kepler revealed there are two SoCs in development for the next-gen system, but the insider cannot confirm if it's an Xbox Series X and Series S situation or a home console and a handheld. One of the two, the insider added, should be affordable at least, suggesting there's a clear power difference between the two. So this is a very interesting report because it seems to indicate that Sony will be offering two different versions of the PlayStation 6 in some way, shape, or form. The big question is whether or not we're looking at two separate home consoles or one of these options being a dedicated handheld. Well, if we think about it, the Series X/S model might not be what Sony is going for here, because at the beginning of this generation, Sony made it clear that they were against this idea. Now, granted, a lot has changed over the last 4 years, so it's certainly possible Sony could have changed their mind. But also, if Sony does decide to do two home consoles or two options for their home console at launch, it's worth noting that they might not take the same approach that Microsoft did with the Series X and S. The S was pretty underpowered, and it was done so that it could reach a much more affordable price point at $300. This time around, if Sony decides to do two different PlayStation 6 models, it might kind of be the opposite, where the base model, the more affordable model, is actually coming in at $500, maybe even $600, and the more expensive model could be significantly more expensive at $700, maybe even $800. Certainly not out of the realm of possibility when we consider what we're looking at with the PS5 Pro. I guess what I'm saying here is essentially what we could end up seeing Sony doing is releasing the PlayStation 6 Pro version at the launch, right? A very, very powerful, much more capable version, but it will be much more expensive. Either that or, I don't know, we could actually be looking at Sony maybe deciding to do a handheld model of the PlayStation 6 in some way, shape, or form. And what actually I think maybe lends some credence to the idea of Sony doing a dedicated home console, but then also doing a handheld at the same time, is there's another report here about the next generation Xbox console or consoles and what Microsoft is apparently getting ready to do. So this is coming from Windows Central in a new article that they put out. And they say here Xbox's 25th anniversary would fall under November 15th, 2026, which puts it firmly in range of a new generation of Xbox hardware potentially. Sony just launched its mid-gen console, the PS5 Pro, which Xbox has passed on competing with this time around. Instead, it seems Xbox is full steam ahead with its next set of console hardware, which we tentatively believe, based on our sources, to include at least both a traditional style successor to the Xbox Series X and Microsoft's real first foray into Xbox handheld gaming with its own take on the Steam Deck. So this is the interesting part about this report from Windows Central, is they're basically saying that Microsoft is also going to offer two SKUs once again with the next-gen Xbox, but one of them will in fact be a dedicated handheld, as they say, kind of similar to Steam Deck. So this makes me think that we could see Sony do the same thing, because if Microsoft is trying to get involved in the handheld space here, and they want to be there day one with the launch of their next generation Xbox, where, hey, we have a traditional home console, very powerful, very capable, but we also have a handheld, which won't be as powerful, but could probably play most of the games, you would assume anyway. I could see Sony maybe trying to match that, but something else we could see Sony do instead is just offer 3 SKUs, as insane as that sounds, but if you think about it, it's not too far off from what we see right now. Right now we have a base PS5, a PS5 Pro, and there's also the PlayStation Portal. Now, granted, the biggest difference if Sony were to do this next generation is rather than it be a streaming-based handheld, it would be a native handheld. Or at the very least, it could natively play PS5 and PS4 games. Maybe you have to stream PlayStation 6 games. But either way, it seems like both Sony and Microsoft are eyeing the handheld market in a big way when it comes to the next generation consoles. So I know it's maybe a little bit early to be talking about next gen, but the reality is we're going to start hearing more about it as we go into 2025 and beyond. So let me know your thoughts on that. Moving on to the next topic, we have a report here that talks about Silent Hill 2 Remake and how it's going to be a console exclusive to PlayStation for at least 1 year. This is not new information, but I guess a lot of people are just now realizing that Sony locked down an exclusivity deal for Silent Hill 2 Remake. And in the latest trailer, it says, quote, not available on other formats until 10/8/2025. So exactly 1 year later. And I've been seeing a lot of people, specifically on Twitter, basically reacting to this very negatively, which is... or I guess if not negatively, like they're just very surprised about it. And that is just weird to me because this was literally one of the first things that Konami announced back in 2022 with the initial reveal trailer of Silent Hill 2 Remake. They said that they entered into an exclusivity agreement with Sony. And yeah, you know how it is. People are always getting on Sony's case for locking down these exclusivity deals. But my take on this is simple. Sony is paying Konami, and Konami is agreeing to that payment. It's, the only party here that is losing, simply put, are Xbox console players. And I understand why they would be frustrated, but the reality is that Microsoft could have made an offer themselves. I think that's something people kind of just overlook, where it's like Microsoft is out here buying entire gaming publishers, right? And owning all of these IP, all of these studios, but we're going to sit here and point the finger at Sony for locking down one game as a 1 year timed exclusive and say they're the bad guys here, when in reality, like, Microsoft could easily afford to lock down a game like Silent Hill 2 for their Xbox players if they wanted. But the reality is they're just not doing that because, well, they want to spend their money elsewhere. And so, I'm not going to sit here and point the finger at Sony for doing something where it's like, okay, let's see. They pay Konami a certain amount of money. Konami says, okay, we're getting paid. Sony sees a benefit where maybe this will draw some people into the PlayStation ecosystem. And it's even releasing day one on PC. And even if you are an Xbox player, I know it sucks to have to wait a year, but it's not like you're being told you're never going to be able to access this game or play it. So, I don't know, man. I think people just, frankly, overreact with stuff like this, but it's especially cringe seeing it now when it's like, guys, you're like 2 years late with this information. Like, we've all known about this for literally years now. But anyway, there it is. Moving on to the next topic here, we're talking about the full lineup for PlayStation at Tokyo Game Show. It was just announced. So one of the things that was announced is people will be able to go hands-on with the PS5 Pro, specifically for 2 games, that being Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Gran Turismo 7. But outside of that, the full lineup at TGS for PlayStation will be Astrobot, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake, Dynasty Warriors Origins, Infinity Nikki, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, Metaphor ReFantasio, Monster Hunter Wilds, Neva, and Sonic X Shadow Generations. And a big reminder here that on September 29th, there is a special presentation for Death Stranding 2 on the Beach that will be hosted by PlayStation and feature Kojima Productions. So that sounds like it's going to be kind of a big deal. But yeah, one other thing I wanted to mention here is the fact that Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater is going to be playable at the PlayStation booth. So I don't know if maybe we are getting this state of play, if maybe we could finally see a release date trailer for MGS Delta. Here's hoping. But I also just want to throw in here that Palworld, the PS5 version of Palworld, was actually seemingly removed from the list of games that are appearing at TGS. And this no doubt has to do with Nintendo filing a lawsuit. And yeah, very disappointing for anybody who was looking forward to playing Palworld on PS5. It seems like Nintendo basically stopped that from happening with this lawsuit. So yeah, just figured I would give you guys that little update. But that's going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it informative. If you did, leave it a like. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon. And feel free to share the video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.